the details that have been kept secret until today. And the details revealed today will send shockwaves throughout the inland Northwest.
In addition to a barrage of horrific details revealed in court, we learned Duncan was here in Spokane around the time he kidnapped the Groene children and was possibly targeting children at a local Kinder Music Children's Center.
KXLY4 in-depth coverage for you tonight with KXLY4's Melissa Luck, who has followed this case since it started. She's live in the newsroom with why the trial is still happening despite Duncan's insistence that he die.
But first to KXLY4's Annie Bishop in Boise, who was in the courtroom for today's hearing. Annie, I understand it was extremely difficult to hear details of this case.
It certainly was, and no one should ever have to hear the grisly details of this horrific case. As journalists, we are trained and often deal with difficult situations, but nothing can prepare you for this.
There is no denying Joseph Duncan is a killer, but how he should be punished is now up to 12 jurors. The courtroom was packed this afternoon as opening statements began.
I wanted to see this man in person, I guess, just out of curiosity.
Linda Monroe has followed this case from the beginning.
I never heard of such an evil man that could beat 3 people to death and not feel anything. I mean, he didn't shoot him, he beat him to death, then tie up 2 little kids, take them away up into the woods of Montana for 6 weeks.
As U.S. District Attorney Tom Moss gave his opening statement, many in the courtroom were shocked and disgusted. At least one juror was visibly upset. Moss described in great detail the planning that went into Duncan's attack. Moss says Duncan bought shoes a few sizes too big so he couldn't be connected to the crime. And Duncan was compulsive about not leaving behind any fingerprints. We also heard for the first time Duncan used a GPS system in his stolen rental car to mark areas as potential targets, including several homes with young children, a bus stop in Montana, and Kinder Music location in Spokane, and that he was in Spokane just days before the murders. Perhaps the most chilling information, Moss says Duncan told investigators he would have never attacked the Groene family had the back door of their Wolf Lodge home been locked. Moss also warned jurors they will have to watch 3 sexually explicit videos of Duncan and Dylan in a cabin in the Lolo National Forest. Duncan gave a brief statement today. He says he will testify because he doesn't agree with what federal prosecutors say happened at that remote campsite where he killed Dylan.
And we also learned that Shasta will not have to take the stand during this trial. The trial resumes tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. That's when federal prosecutors will call their first witness. Close to 90 witnesses are expected to be called to the stand during the next few weeks. Reporting live in Boise, Annie Bishop, KXLY4 HD News.
In-depth coverage continues tonight with Melissa Luck in the newsroom. And Melissa, it still doesn't look like Duncan is planning to put on a defense.
Yeah, if he were planning that, he would have actually addressed it in his opening statement today. Instead, he laid out no defense and did not refer to a single witness that he would call, except to say that he himself would testify just to clarify some details. Still, federal prosecutors can't just sit back and expect a slam dunk in this case. Gonzaga Law School Dean Earl Martin will serve as our legal expert in this case, helping guide us through the complicated federal court system. He said today federal death penalty cases are fairly rare and that no one on federal death row right now committed their crimes in Idaho or Washington. We asked today if Duncan's lack of a defense means the feds can sit back and rest. He said if he were prosecuting this case, he would proceed with everything he had.
They've still got this burden, whatever Duncan does, and they want to make sure they carry their burden. That's a part of really protecting the process, and it's also a part of protecting their record against any appeals.
Martin says Duncan cannot simply sit in court and sabotage his defense, then come back later and use a shoddy case as grounds for an appeal. We plan to use Martin as a guide throughout this case as things no doubt get increasingly more complicated. Live in the newsroom, I'm Melissa Luck, KXLY4 HD News.